All right, welcome back, Next Gen family. We got an amazing session today. I'm joined by the wonderful Max Altschuler. Max is the Vice President of Sales Engagement at Outreach right now. But beyond that, he's done possibly a million things. I mean, you know, this guy's into startups when he even founded a nonprofit as a startup way back when. So we got so much to talk about today. So you better hang on to your seats, grab a notepad, grab a pen. Max, thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to dive right in. We're going to go right away with some rapid fire questions, get you on the hot seat, get you feeling a little, ready to share some stuff with the community. So we'll keep these to one word, one sentence answers, and let the people get to know you a little bit better. How's that sound?
Let's see it. Yeah, what do you got?
Awesome. All right, what is one book that you would recommend everybody read right now?
Yeah, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. It's a book that my dad gave me when I first got into basically the real world. First job out of college, and I kept it in my backpack with me. It's a small book, but it's more than just about how to be a good salesperson. It's about how to be a good human in general. And I think I owe a lot of my career to the relationships and the value that I've placed on building real and authentic relationships with people. And this book is a great kind of reminder or guideline in some cases around that.
Wow. And I'm sure we'll dive in a little more later, but I'm sure helped inform some of the books that you've authored and co-authored along the way.
Oh yeah.
I love that. What is one wellness tip that you have for the next generation?
Oh man, I mean, it's the simplest stuff is still the time tested stuff is still the go-to. So 8 hours of sleep and drink enough water. Those for me are, above everything else, my go-tos. The one thing I started doing to make sure I drank enough water every day, because I've always been terrible at that, is every morning I make what I call a spa water. So I bought a pitcher, and I fill up we have a Berkey water filter, but you could use a Brita or whatever. You could just use your sink. Fill up the pitcher with water, put some ice in there, and then chop up like cucumbers or berries or oranges or mint or basil and just throw it in there. So you just get a little extra produce or fruit every week. You throw it in there and you got spa water, and then you put that on your desk and make sure you fill it up at least once during the day. You get 2 of those in you. You drink enough water, your skin's going to be good. You're going to be feeling good.
Wow.
You're going to detox.
Wow.
It's important.
We're getting all the hacks. That's one I haven't heard in a while, I would say, getting the spa water going.
I'm an old man. I'm an old man now. I'm not the spry young guy I used to be. And having all that water is, cleans out the system, detoxes you nice and right, and keeps you looking young. I gotta focus on that stuff.
I love that. Your third rapid fire question: what is one productivity hack that keeps you at peak performance every day?
Oh man, productivity hack. I do a lot of calendar blocking. Actually something I ebb and flow with personally, depending on, just the time in my life and how hectic things are, what my projects are, and what I've been working on. And now having a 14-month-old baby, for the past, I'd say, year, I've had to do a really good job at calendar blocking. Otherwise I feel like I'm always on. And especially during COVID, there's a lot of context switching. You're home, watch the kid. You're at work, well, you're upstairs, you're working, and then you're home again. So there's no transitioning or commuting anymore. So making sure that you're, operating at peak performance is super important, and finding ways to give yourself the mental bandwidth to reset is very important.
I love that. And your final rapid fire question for you, rounding us out. Max, talk us a little bit through your morning routine. I'm sure now it's different than it was maybe 14 months ago, but now the morning routine and what you do every day to set yourself up for success.
Yeah, I'm up at 6:30, and always have been for the past few years, even before the kid. And I think that's crucial to getting a good start on the day. It doesn't matter what time zone you're in, but some have its perks to being an early riser more than others. But getting up early, getting a routine in, whether that's, a workout or a walk. I'll do like a Peloton ride for 45 minutes, or I'll do a walk depending on the season. But I like to go for, a nice hour-long walk in nature and try and get out there as much as I possibly can. Then come back and spend time with, usually I take the baby with me, but come back and spend time with the wife and the baby, and then get to work, before other people are online it's really awesome. You can get some real head clearing work done, and then get into the meetings.
Totally. Without a doubt. May I ask, who's your favorite Peloton instructor? Is that public information?
So I use my Peloton differently than everybody else.
Really?
I have like my
You're a
playlist
rider.
with my songs,
Wow.
and then I do the scenic.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think like, what was it? Any of the ones that are in France,
yeah,
like countryside of France ones, those are my favorite.
Wow.
I put those on, and then I put like my deep house like bangers list on or something like that, and then just go crazy.
That's hilarious. Beautiful scenery in France, deep house music in the ears. I love the
yeah. And I'm also not like a flatland like rider. I don't really like the 20s resistance, just cruise. I'll put that stuff on like, I don't know, 60. Let's go.
Getting right to it.
Stand up.
5 minutes.
Yeah. I'll stand up for 45 minutes. I'll stand up on 60. I mean, that's what I want to do, and push.
I love that.
I'm very extreme personality type, where it's like, if I have hot sauce, I want the hottest hot sauce. If I'm working out, let's go. I don't know if there's a cursing show, but let's fucking go.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely is. It totally is. We're good. We're not on, public television. We're good to go.
Okay, cool.
Max, wonderful leeway into, I think what's going to be an incredible conversation. There's so much that I want to talk with you about, but I think first, you're talking to an audience of entrepreneurs, and you yourself have, we were joking before this, you don't even know how many companies you founded at this point, which means that, there's been a lot of stuff along the way. And you're talking about how you're, an extreme guy. How'd you know you wanted to get into entrepreneurship? What kind of got your juices flowing to say, hey, maybe I can create something of my own?
Yeah, it's just a personality thing. I was always an entrepreneur since the early days. Got caught selling Halloween candy on the school bus, principal calls the house. My dad likes to say that was my first entrepreneurial experience, but he was an entrepreneur. He taught me a lot about what it takes to start and run your own business. He's a financial advisor. He runs a one-man shop out of Long Island. And, since the earliest, I can remember, took a lot of joy in showing me what he did, talking about what he did, and also did a lot to make sure that I knew how to push the boundaries, not break rules, but push the boundaries. I remember, going to hockey games and things like that as a young kid, and there'd be signage that says like employees only beyond this point, and the locker rooms would be back there where the players like come off the ice, and he'd be like, let's go check it out. And you knew in those situations that like the reward was going to see the players up close, and the risk was like you saying, oh, I'm sorry, we were looking for the bathroom, and somebody just like politely escorting you back out the other way, right? So like you're not going to get arrested, or worst case you get kicked out of the game. But things like that, like how to push those boundaries. And I think a lot of that kind of set me on a path to take that risk. I think also, I have to thank and respect my privilege in a lot of ways, and being able to take that kind of risk. When I graduated college, I didn't have a sick parent or bills that needed immediate payment or anything like that. I was able to go take risks and be an entrepreneur and start companies and things like that. And, I owe a lot to, my father and his sacrifice for putting me in that situation, not having to be in that place, and luck in a lot of ways also, that, the family was healthy and I didn't have to be in that situation. So I took full advantage of that. And, first company was a bike share that I started in college. We won a grant from the university. That was in the middle of a recession back in 2008, 2009. So raising money for a bike share program by, a couple 20-year-olds wasn't exactly the most fundable thing. But we did a really good job. I thought we made it pretty far, and we learned a ton. I learned more doing that than I did in my entire college career, except for how to kind of hack my college career, which is a whole other story.
Yeah.
But I've learned a ton being an entrepreneur. And like you said, I started a lot of different companies, and you kind of have to. You got to learn from the failures, and you got to take accountability for the failures, because if you don't take accountability, then you don't get the learning out of it.
100%. And I think pulling on that last thread about hacking, you start a few companies, you go off into the biz dev world for a little bit, and then you create something that anybody in the sales world is familiar with, sales hacker. And I was joking with you when we first jumped on. I literally had somebody on my team send me an article earlier this week, and I was like, "You're never gonna believe who I'm talking to on Thursday. I'm talking to Max," and he's like, "You're kidding." So talk to us about your journey. How do you get this inspiration? Obviously, you mentioned entrepreneurship's hard. You have some failures along the way. Where did the inspiration for Sales Hacker come from? And when did you know that this was a real thing, that this could be, a winner in your journey?
Yeah, definitely. Well, like you said, I did the BD thing kind of in between my entrepreneurial journey. But kind of the way that it shook out was, when I graduated college, the bike share program didn't work out. That was pretty apparent. Weren't going to cling to that for no reason. And so I started a social media company strictly to make American money while living abroad. So I saw a need. We saw the opportunity to make some money there, and we can go live in Costa Rica and Nicaragua making American money, getting paid from American clients in American dollars while living in a really cheap place on the beach and enjoying our lives. And we did that for about 5 months. And then we got to a point where we're like, we're too ambitious for this. We're learning a lot, but we have to start something bigger or do something bigger, or go learn how the sausage is made from the inside at a bigger company. So I flew back to San Francisco, ended up at Udemy, and they had raised a small seed round of funding, some really smart guys. And that's where I was able to get this education, how it's made, get surrounded by a bunch of people who've been there, done that before. And they tasked me with building the sales side, the supply side of the marketplace. And we had to generate more revenue using less resources. We didn't have the resources that the big boys had in our space. We had to figure it out. And I love that. I love hacking a new process. So, I got to be the entrepreneur, the CEO of my own, little project, so to speak. And I got to take that and run with it. And we did a really good job at it, fortunately. And although a lot of other VCs and founders would ask our founders, so how are we growing so quickly? What are we doing, on the supply side, et cetera, et cetera. And they would point them in my direction. So I ended up having a lot of conversations with other founders and heads of sales for early stage companies, sharing some of the stuff that I was doing. And that kind of snowballed to a point where we started to host a meetup. And we were like, okay, let's only bring people who add value, that are also doing really cool things that they could share. Every week we'll go in a circle, and each person will share if they have something new to share, and somebody could bring something to present. And we went from 4 people to 20 people in this meetup over the course of the first year. And then I said to the group, hey, who here would be interested in participating in a conference if I turn this into a mini conference? I think we can get 100 people together. And next thing I know, I had 300 people together, and the conference made $60K in profit, which was more money than I was making per year at the time working for some of these startups. So I said to myself, okay, let's dedicate a year to this. Worst case scenario, I come out of this and I have an amazing network because of all the speakers and people I'm having speak at my event, but also the brand that I'm building in the space that I continue to build as I write, content around this and host events and et cetera, et cetera. Best case scenario, I build a business out of it. So it was very, to me, fun. And there was I felt like I couldn't lose in a way, because I had the upside of all right, worst case scenario, I'm going to go be a VP of sales at the next startup or whatever, because I'll have a million different opportunities and a great network. And we kept our eyes open and took a lot of the opportunities that came our way. And I like to say that hard work creates opportunity, and opportunity creates a larger surface area for luck to attach to. So I wouldn't necessarily say that if you work hard, you'll get lucky, but if you work hard, you'll get opportunities, and opportunities will provide like chances for you to get a little lucky. And I think, there were times where we got a little lucky. There were times where, we were certainly times where we were lucky, and certainly times where we were good. Sometimes you just don't know the difference until a lot later. I'll take either one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I mean, such an exciting journey. And so like, I'm like, I picked up like a little Tim Ferriss action in the, moving to Costa Rica, making American dollars off of, being remote, and like coming back and being able to start your own thing. And I think you've become a real voice in this world of sales engagement, which I think is such an interesting space. One that I'm, exploring more in my role currently. And I'd love to dive in there, because I think not enough startups are thinking about this sales engagement concept. What is it? How they should use it? What tools exist in the world? And what gives you the kind of future look to say, hey, this is something that everybody should be thinking about when they're building out their sales stack?
Yeah, I think anytime you're able to get an unfair advantage, you should take it, especially when you're in the business world, especially when you're in startup world. And so to be able to spend, not a lot of money on a sales engagement platform in order to generate a lot more revenue, it seems like a no-brainer to me. So for us, at Outreach, obviously we drink our own champagne, and I'm probably one of the biggest proponents of sales engagement that there is. But I was an early user of the first sales engagement platform, which wasn't even a platform at that time. It was just a tool. It was for, email only, and they didn't even do sequences. It was a company called ToutApp. And I became really good friends with TK, who was running the company, and they eventually ended up selling to Marketo, and Outreach surpassed them. But that's what I was using at Udemy to build out our like modern sales process. And we were able to automate some of the systems. So a lot of the things that salespeople do that they don't need to do, a human doesn't need to do, can be automated. But where it gets really interesting is that your system processes so much data. There's no reason why it can't also tell you what the next best action is to take. And so at a certain point, your sales process is, an act of math and science. It's something that you can say, okay, based on the sentiment and the insights that I'm getting from the responses to my message, here are the things that I need to tweak to make this land better for this persona, for this industry. And you can get to a certain point where you have the most well-optimized messaging, the most well-optimized targeting, and the most well-optimized timing of everything that you're doing, you're sending, you're saying, you're calling, the entire thread of your funnel, to the point where it's a science. You know what you're doing is right. And so if you can run that against somebody who doesn't have a key to that block box, you're running it against somebody who doesn't understand the metrics and the data and all that, they can't optimize any of it. You're going to win every time. So that's why I'm so excited about it. And obviously why, I ended up selling the company to Outreach. I was always very high on them and their product focus. And I do think that the future of the CMO, CRO, CCO, Chief Customer Officers, all sitting in a sales engagement platform, because it's the only thing that really unlocks that black box and gives you the transparency, visibility, accountability, data and insights that you need to take it to the next level.
Absolutely. And I think, Outreach is obviously an incredible platform, and one that I think, more of the startups in our ecosystem should be looking at as they're building out, their own sales technologies and their own sales teams. Obviously, even in the recent past, I saw there's a little title change for you. Now the, VP of Sales Engagement, which switched from marketing. What are you excited about in the next, short term, 6 months, 9 months, with Outreach and this new, position that you've created for yourself?
Yeah. So when we did the acquisition from Sales Hacker to Outreach, I joined as the VP of Marketing. And I'd never been a VP of marketing before, but I built a media company. And so it's a very similar motion. I had a list of 80,000 subscribers for Sales Hacker, and Outreach had best in class sales software. So we were like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
And the plan was never for me to be long-term, CMO or anything like that of the business. It was for me to kind of get in and help where I could in terms of putting outreach on the map and fixing some of the systems and processes, and then figuring out, where can we get the most juice out of Sales Hacker and in my experience. And I think it's over time, we've done a very good job of kind of cleaning up some of the marketing debt that we had, and getting some things in place and getting some people in roles that are very good at their jobs. But it became clear to me that, like, for the, for the next 5 to 10 years, like, what do I want my focus to be? Where do I want to be? Where do I want my, want to build my unfair advantage? And I think that if outreach is going to be the GTM control panel,
Yeah.
then being the best at outreach makes me a superhuman individual,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, if in 5 years outreach is mandatory at every revenue organization, 10 years let's say it's mandatory, but in 5 years it's mainstream and everybody's living in it, and if I'm the best at that, then I can pretty much do whatever I want, right? So it's,
Totally.
I don't know that I'll ever go be a practitioner again. I might not. I might go into advisory or VC or something like that, but providing value to the ecosystem in the form of expertise and knowledge, and in terms of, the next evolution of sales, isn't going out of style anytime soon. So I think a lot of times you don't have to prepare yourself for, like, the next role. You want to prepare yourself for the next wave, of whatever it is, a technology or just a trend in general. If I sat here and said, like, what do I need to do to become, like, the best CMO I could, possibly be, and just focused on being a good CMO so that I can be a CMO next somewhere, I'd probably still end up focusing a large amount on, like, understanding the nuances of pipeline demand generation and how that equates to revenue. And a lot of that would be focused in outreach, is what I truly believe. So I'd rather focus on something like sales engagement and understanding that, and being able to speak to all things GTM, and then have my kind of options open than kind of one narrow path. And like I said, I don't really need to go be an operator again at another company. I probably don't need to go be a CMO again. I'm good. I'm okay. But, if the right thing comes along, maybe I do advisory, maybe I do VC.
Yeah, Max, you're an inspiration, man. This is awesome. I've learned so much from our time here. Somehow we've managed to make it to the end of our time. I feel like I've got like 100 more questions for you, but I'll leave you with one, and then I'll recap my takeaways from our time. But one question that I love to ask at the end of this is, what excites you about the next generation? So much is coming. You're talking to an audience of people that are building, that are trying to do what you did. They're getting in stuff a little too early, maybe with the bike share, but finding that fit throughout the way. What excites you about this next generation?
Yeah, I just love how it evolves and how unknown it is. I mean, every we used to have these, like, generational divides where you had, like, boomers and millennials and et cetera, et cetera. And you had these generations that felt like they lasted longer because tech wasn't moving as fast. And now that tech moves as fast as it is, because it moves faster and faster every year and it's compounding, the generational shifts are going to be bigger and shorter. So an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, when they're 28 and 26, might not have anything in common. Versus now, like, an entire generation might be millennials of ages 25 to 38. So, like, we're going to get to a point where it really starts to become more compact, and there's so many different individuals there. And you'll see millennials and Gen Z and et cetera become decision makers at companies. And that's when things get really interesting. And that's another reason why I love outreach so much, is because you can pivot with that generational pull, where it's like, oh, well, this group likes personalized video, this group likes GIFs. They're Gen Z and millennials are native to text, native to Facebook, social networks, things like that, native to Slack. So how you sell to somebody who might be in their 50s or 60s currently, and how you sell to somebody who's a decision maker but is in their 30s might be two very different things. And in 5 to 10 years, it's only going to get, I'd say, more interesting. So that I geek out on that. And it's like, to me, it's the psychology and like in the unknown, but tracking those trends. And, I hit my nephew up for investment advice because he's 15, and I got an investment opportunity in an esports company the other day. And I was like, I don't know anything about this. Like, this isn't even remotely on my radar as a human. But I texted it to my nephew, my 15-year-old nephew, and he's just like, yeah, I know all about this stuff. Here's what you got to know. And I was like, this is like some of the best investment research I've ever come across.
Wow.
So it's good to have.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And what a wonderful way to wrap up for everyone that's going to jump back in here. Some takeaways I got from you, Max, are right from the beginning, pushing the boundaries. I love that story, being able to go into the locker room and say, with the hockey players and be like, hey, I'm just looking for the bathroom. But if you don't push the boundaries, you're not going to succeed. The other thing you said, hard work creates opportunities, and opportunities allow for more luck. And I think seeing that transition, that trend, and being able to explore that more is what people should be looking for. Sales engagement, and by extension, outreach, allow people to unlock that black box that is sales and exceed time and time again. And then the last one you left us with, prepare yourself for the next wave, not the next roll. Max, you're truly an inspiration. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for jumping on, sharing your insights with Next Gen HQ. We'll have to get you back real soon to do this again.
Awesome. Anytime. Thanks for having me.